Black Mirror is an anthology show on Netflix about technology. Each episode portrays a fictional society that revolves around some form of technology. The writers show both the good and bad parts of the technology. Usually, by the end of the episode, we understand why we shouldn't rely solely on one piece of technology to run society. One of my favorite episodes of Black Mirror is titled Nosedive. If you don't want spoilers, go to Netflix and watch it yourself. Nosedive is Season 3, Episode 1 of Black Mirror. The episode starts with our main character, Lacey, who's going for a jog. A group of joggers passes Lacey. A male jogger greets Lacey and she cheerfully responds. After Lacey's run, she returns home and takes a shower. We see that Lacey is wearing digital contact lenses. She then practices smiling and giggling politely to herself in the mirror. Lacey goes into the kitchen. We see her brother Ryan playing video games in the living room. Their apartment lease is up in about a month, so they are discussing looking for new apartments. Ryan tells Lacey he is going to live with his friend Nate. Lacey says she has apartment hunting appointments scheduled on her lunch break. Lacey tells Ryan to get dressed because some buyers are coming to look at their apartment. The color palette in this society is very muted and pastel. When I look at it, I feel bored. There's something very fake yet polite about it, which describes the society perfectly. Lacey orders some coffee and talks to a man named Keith.
Oh, saw your boy in the fire hat just now. So cute.
Yeah, he's really something.
We are introduced to the piece of technology in this episode via this scene, which is an interaction rating system. People use their phones to rate interactions with other people. Everyone is overly cheerful. The whole environment, although pleasant looking, feels very fake and artificial. Lacey takes a photo of her coffee and cookie, posts it on her social media, and then waits for people to rate it. This tyrannical society portrays how social credit controls behavior. Tyranny does not always mean that soldiers will drag you out of your house and throw you into a pit. Tyranny usually happens when fear controls your behavior. This rating system controls you because you are afraid of your reputation failing. Instead of being polite because it is the right thing to do, you are polite out of fear. Does any of this sound familiar to you? Inclusive language in our society behaves similarly. People shame you for not using the terminology the tyrants want you to use. People don't want to believe that inclusive language is the same as compelled speech. Political correctness is also the same as compelled speech. The fact that people will deny that these concepts are examples of compelled speech proves my point. If these two things weren't examples of compelled speech, no one would be upset about me not using these words. The irony is lost on people when they get upset at me for not listening to them while simultaneously telling me they are not compelling me to do anything. Jesus Christ. Another connection this rating system has to the modern day is our environmental, social, and governance system, ESG. ESG scores are required for corporations to get loans to fund their businesses. If a corporation's ESG score gets too low, they don't get the funding. They get terrible interest rates for loans, or their stock market shares will tank. A corporation must implement woke policies such as DIE training to keep the social part of their ESG scores high. ESG officers get paid upwards of 7 figures to ensure corporations comply with the criteria. Forcing things onto the corporations that make no sense is an arbitrary way for the ESG system to control them. I know this is Vice News. You all know how I feel about Vice News. However, they did research in China about a topic that is relevant to Nosedive, so let's have a look.
China started piloting its social score system in 2015.
Does that sound creepily familiar? Don't worry, it gets worse. Just when I think the world has reached rock bottom, someone somewhere tells me to hold their beer so they can prove me wrong. China took the garbage rating system portrayed in Nosedive and implemented it into reality. Wow, good job.
You start with 1,000 points. If you do something bad, you get points docked. If you do something good and you happen to be spotted, you get a boost.
The Chinese people must feel so happy to be watched all the time, as if they're living in a giant cult. Their neighbors get the pleasure of spying on them and making sure they're always perfect out in society. I am so glad I do not live in China. You should be as well if you don't. You better pray that this horseshit doesn't invade America. Nosedive is trying to warn us about this crap, as we will see later when Lacey's life gets much worse due to her rating.
Hey, Lacey!
Bets, it's great to see you.
You too.
We get more fake polite interactions when Lacey talks to a woman named Bethany in the elevator who works in the same building she does. Lacey arrives at her desk. She sees that someone has rated her cookie picture 4 stars, which worries her. We see the first side effect of this rating system and how it affects Lacey. It causes anxiety in her because she doesn't want her score to get lower.
Got one for everyone, actually. Still a bunch of them for grabs. They're from the organic stall at the farmer's market?
Lacey's co-worker Chester almost begs Lacey to take the smoothie he is offering.
Sure. Okay.
When Lacey does so, the rest of the office stares at her in discomfort. Lacey thinks they expect her to sip the smoothie, so she does, but her coworkers are still visibly uncomfortable.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chester sounds extremely desperate in his gratitude to Lacey, and she rates Chester 5 stars. A male coworker sitting near Lacey informs her that the office is not engaging with Chester because his relationship ended, and the entire office is on his ex's side. Lacey blindly agrees with her coworker, and he gives Chester a bad rating.
Poor Chess.
No. We're all on Gordon's side.
Sure. Obviously.
Chester turns around and sees Lacey and the other coworkers staring at him. Lacey then gets a bunch of downvotes from her coworkers, probably because she was not on the up and up about the news of Chester and his breakup. This scene shows that this society demands perfection at every turn. Lacey not knowing about Chester's breakup as quickly as everyone else isn't her fault. Who cares if she didn't know? According to the coworkers, Lacey should have known because she should have been scrolling everyone's social media pages to keep herself informed, damn it. They all did it, so they think she was also supposed to do the same thing. In this society, it is everyone's duty to know everyone's business and respond correctly. In this society, everyone cares, and that's why the society is crap. This society values the concepts of groupthink and hive mind. Both these concepts mean blindly believing someone's opinion without asking questions, even if you think it's wrong. You are not allowed to have thoughts that disagree with the majority, or you will face consequences. Everyone else is doing it, meaning you must do what everyone does. Be a follower. Teenagers and younger kids often do this to gain popularity. They want to fit in. They want many friends, even if those friends aren't genuine. The quantity of friends is more important to them than the quality of a friendship. Usually, adults grow out of this behavior when they realize that quality is more important. This society, however, doesn't seem to have grown out of this childish mentality. This society runs on popularity. The ultimate goal is to get as close to 5 stars as possible. Do whatever you need to do to get there, no matter who you hurt. This society pretends to run on politeness, while cruelty hides just beneath the surface. Be mean to Chester, because society demands it. Family members who shunned each other based on politics are another modern-day example of this shitty behavior. Groupthink and hive mind are also 2 of the most destructive ways of thinking. That is why I am always suggesting that you think for yourself. Ryan calls Lacey and says a couple has decided to take their apartment. Lacey goes over to view a new apartment. The realtor shows Lacey a hologram of her and a fictional man in the kitchen. Lacey realizes she is missing love in her life.
A little more than expected.
There's options. You know our Prime Influencers program? Do I qualify for that? No, you don't.
Here we have another way this rating system screws people over in this society. Lacey doesn't have a high enough rating to afford a discount on the apartment, but she doesn't make enough money to pay the rent out of pocket.
We'd need you around a 4.5.
4.5.
If a social credit system can screw up your ability to make a home for yourself, it restricts your freedom, and that is wrong.
Raising his score could mean more money later, with lower interest loans and discounts on utilities and rent.
Pop quiz. Do you think housing will be easier or harder to afford under a social rating system? I've already shown you examples using Nosedive, a fictional show, but here it is in reality. The answer to the quiz is it will be harder to afford housing. Your personality will literally dictate if your housing is affordable. You could argue that people don't want to live next to crazy people who complain about everything, and that would be a fair point. However, I bring up the fact that life happens, and humans are emotional beings. Sometimes our neighbors make us angry and frustrated, but we talk, we communicate. Sometimes we yell to settle a dispute after everyone has said their piece. That's part of life. You can't always smile and giggle your way through everything. Punishing people for having any emotion other than happiness is literally what cults do. I should know because I was in a cult for 7 years. Even in that short amount of time, I went insane trying to pretend I had no emotions. I was like Lacey. I had to pretend to be happy and bubbly all the time. That is not something humans are designed to do. Lacey is now working hard to get her rating up to 4.5 by giving high-ranking people 5 stars. Ryan asks her why she wants to move into Pelican Cove because it's a fake place and he doesn't think it's worth it. A woman is seen crying while walking down a hallway. We see another glimpse of how this rating system can destroy someone. Not everyone is happy in this rating system society. 2 male executives are following the woman, concerned that there isn't anything they can do for her.
I'm gonna sue your ass. There's nothing I can do, sir.
I can't help but notice that despite the men looking concerned, they're not willing to change the rating system when one man says there's nothing he can do for the woman. Lacey meets with a man named Hansen, a representative of Reputelligent, the name of the rating system. Hansen suggests ways Lacey can improve her rating to qualify for her Pelican Cove apartment. Ultimately, Hansen advises that Lacey impress people with high 4 ratings and her score will be boosted.
So in terms of quality, you could use a punch-up right there. Ideally, that's upvotes from quality people.
Quality people. This is a disgusting way to view people. Every human has inherent worth simply because we are human. This society, however, doesn't value humans for our worth. Instead, it values your social credit score and considers you higher quality if your number is higher. It plays a lot like identity politics, where you are only considered quality material if you have the correct optics. We are not products to be sold on shelves, yet both identity politics and this society treat us as such. Humans are commodified as if the rating was a price tag, because the ratings and prices reflect the worth of the product they're attached to. In our society, labels are currency. Do you have the appropriate labels? You're in the club. Have the wrong labels, however, and you're due for a shunning.
You know I shun fancy things like electricity.
Lacey sees Chester after getting her coffee. Chester asks Lacey for help with the office door. He has been indirectly fired because the office building refuses to let him enter. Lacey refuses to help Chester based on what her coworker told her the other day. We see how the rating system turns people into bad people. The irony of this society is it rewards bad behavior. It doesn't leave room for empathy while telling people that fake smiles and platitudes are good behavior. Shun people who have a rating starting with a 3 or below, and you will be rewarded.
Please.
It's evident on Lacey's face that she didn't want to snub Chester, but she felt trapped by the rating system. She needs a place to live, so she has to raise her rating. Lacey is not a jerk, but she behaves poorly because of the societal structure she lives in. Lacey once again meets Bethany on the elevator. This time, Lacey tries to impress Bethany by giving her a croissant, which backfires on Lacey. Bethany rates Lacey 3 stars and Lacey panics. Lacey calls Hanson for advice and he tells her she shouldn't act desperate.
Don't try too hard. It's impossible to respect. High Force can smell it a mile off.
When someone reeks of desperation, it is off-putting. This is why clingy people are often disliked by a majority of people. If you beg for someone to like you, there is a high risk you will push them away. I feel like modern-day society is full of desperate people. People deep into political correctness and inclusive speech reek of desperation to me. They are so eager for the left to like them that they will grovel even if it makes them look pathetic.
Does it bother you to use inclusive language?
Authentic gestures, that's the key.
I find this ironic because Hanson uses the word authentic while working for a company that promotes fakeness. This is not a complaint because the show does a fabulous job portraying this irony. I am reminded of how the left uses the word authentic in our society, and they are also some of the fakest people in the world. They wouldn't know authenticity if it punched them in the face. Lacey becomes a little anxious after Hanson hangs up, looking for another way to raise her score since he is too busy to answer her last question. Lacey takes a photo of her doll named Mr. Rags and posts it on social media. Naomi, a woman with a rating in the high 4s, rates Lacey's picture 5 stars, which makes Lacey feel better.
The fuck is that?
Tapenade? Want some?
Who even are you?
Lacey is cooking. Ryan comes into the kitchen and doesn't recognize her food, nor does he recognize her personality. Lacey gets a phone call from Naomi, who gave her a 5-star rating on her photo of Mr. Rags. Lacey gets excited, which annoys Ryan. Naomi tells Lacey she is getting married and asks Lacey if she would be her maid of honor. There's a small moment where we again see how the rating system hurts people. It even hurts people with high ratings.
But we haven't...
I don't know, just seeing Mr. Rags, all the memories, it just brought things home.
Naomi's voice cracks when she talks about the memories of Lacey, whom she grew up with. They went to an art camp together where Naomi helped Lacey create Mr. Rags. I feel the girls grew apart because Naomi's rating was higher. My guess is that Naomi chose to interact with higher rated people over the lower rated ones in her life. The rating is everything. The rating is power. The rating is tyranny.
She was always mean to you.
No, she wasn't.
She had that rhyme about you.
That was a game.
What about when she cut your hair?
I asked her to.
Lacey hangs up with Naomi. Ryan reveals that Lacey and Naomi's past friendship was rocky. Lacey doesn't want to believe that Ryan thinks Naomi was never her friend. Lacey visits Hanson once again. She shows him her wedding invite, which impresses Hanson. He says her invite will definitely help her with her rating. Lacey calls Pelican Cove to confirm that she wants to accept the apartment. The realtor says Lacey's rating is still too low, but Lacey reassures her that she has a plan to raise it, which the realtor accepts. Lacey then sends her security deposit to Pelican Cove.
You get points from your gaming buddies. It's the same thing. Don't shit on me for aiming higher.
Pelican Cove higher?
What's wrong with Pelican Cove? They're great apartments.
They are fake smile jail cells.
Lacey and Ryan have a fight about her obsession with the rating system. Ryan has a 3-star rating, but he's not as concerned about it as Lacey is. Ryan tries to convince Lacey that ratings are not worth as much as she thinks. Lacey misses her taxi to the airport because she is too busy fighting with Ryan.
They are fake smile jail cells.
Great. Car canceled. And he marked me down.
Here we see how the rating system leaves no room for life to happen. If you aren't perfect, you get a ding on your social credit score. The problem is, people aren't perfect. People are getting punished for being human. You cannot predict when an argument will happen. Arguments don't happen at convenient times. You may miss your taxi because life happens. People are getting punished for living life. The rating system is horrible once you dig deeper into how it affects people.
I am sorry, but I miss the normal you. Before this obsession, when we had conversations, remember?
Ryan confesses he misses Lacey's previous behavior, back when she was not obsessed with the rating system. We could be witnessing a potential scenario of what may have happened in Lacey and Naomi's past. Ryan mentions missing genuine conversations with Lacey instead of the surface-level small talk that fills this society.
This whole ranking thing, just comparing yourself to people who
Have you seen my charger?
only pretend to be happy.
Ryan mentions the obsession with comparing yourself to other people who only pretend to be happy is nonsense. I think about society today where it seems like everywhere I look, someone is comparing themselves to someone else on social media. People believe others' Instagram feeds are their actual lives, while failing to remember that people only post what they want others to see. People hide their actual thoughts while projecting an image they want to show the world and saying what they think others want to hear.
High fours like Naomi, I bet they're suicidal on the inside.
Ryan tells the truth when he says he doesn't think people are actually happy. People hide their depression, anxiety, and despair behind the filtered photos on their social media pages. Perhaps people think they can fool themselves into happiness if they post enough happy pictures. When you spend your life comparing yourself to others, you make yourself miserable. Lacey experiences a few negative interactions over the next few minutes. Lacey downvotes Ryan and he retaliates by downvoting Lacey. The taxi driver honks his horn. Lacey rushes out of her apartment, bumping into her neighbor Tamara. Tamara is holding a coffee cup, which she spills on herself, causing her to downvote Lacey.
Well, I'll see you in a few hours. I'm getting married tomorrow.
Lacey annoys the taxi driver when she responds to Naomi's phone call in her chipper fake voice and plastic giggles. The taxi driver downvotes Lacey after dropping her off at the airport. The airport has canceled Lacey's flight because her rating has dropped below the minimum rating for that flight. This is one of the more dire consequences of rating systems. An entire mode of transportation has been cut off from Lacey because of her rating. At the time of Lacey's booking, she was rated at 4.2.
I'm a 4.2.
I'm afraid you're actually a 4.183.
Now that she has a rating of 4.1, despite it being so close, that doesn't matter. The technology system restricts you and doesn't care about you. The ticket lady is physically prohibited from issuing Lacey a ticket. The technology prevents her, but she's also personally disgusted. We see again that the rating system turns you into someone who doesn't want to help others unless they fit neatly inside an arbitrary box. We see again that the rating system turns you into someone who doesn't want to help others unless they can help you too. But if they have a chance of making your rating go down, you won't help them.
If someone slips below 1,000 points, even just a little, there are serious consequences.
This man has a social credit score of 950. We'll find out he's the male version of Lacey, as his travel is severely restricted because his number isn't correct. According to who? The tyrants in charge, of course.
B级意味着你将来坐飞机呀、高消费呀，或者是什么贷款呐，都不能做了。
Oh look, it's Lacey's twin. He can't buy a plane ticket because his rating is too low. What does he have to do instead? He had to take a different mode of transportation. He tried to take a train, but his score was still too low for that. He ended up taking the bus, which took him over 10 hours. The train would have taken him at least 3 to 4 hours, but of course the plane was ideal. A human being is punished for having an arbitrary number on a fucking sheet of paper that tells him he is not worthy of sitting his bum on an airplane or a train.
Call the fucking supervisor.
Okay, that's profanity. We're zero tolerance on profanity.
This zero tolerance profanity shit irritated me. I understand there is a time and a place for certain speech patterns and words. However, when someone is being unreasonable, swearing is appropriate. I'm bringing up the cult again because they were like this. They told me not to swear and to substitute different words. I usually told them to fuck off, which got me in trouble. But I'm sorry, freaking donkey balls just doesn't have the same ring as fucking donkey balls. Also, spare me the lie that when you're saying freaking, you aren't also swearing. You're just using different words to do it. The context of the word in that way is the same fucking thing. Swearing is a way of expressing yourself, and when used sparingly and appropriately, it is effective. If you are saying things that matter, peppering in a few swear words every so often isn't such a big deal. Other airport customers downvote Lacey. A security guard penalizes Lacey by downgrading her 1 full rating point. He also adds double damage to her score. Now, anytime someone downvotes her, it will count as 2 votes. Way to make sure people can dig themselves out of the hole you put them in, isn't it? The security guard says the penalty is temporary, but come on. Everyone knows when you sink low in any type of rating system, it's like climbing up a water slide to get back to the top.
Please, remove yourself from the airport immediately.
People think that if you say something in a certain tone of voice, it always comes across as nice. That's not true. The security guard told Lacey to get out of the airport, which still makes her feel bad even though he smiled while saying it. It's the substance of your words that is important. Please take your coat and climb into the nearest dumpster, then wait for the garbage truck to come by to deposit you into a landfill. Have a nice day. To make matters worse, the airport ticket lady downvotes Lacey. Kick a girl while she's down, why don't ya?
Ought to bitch slap you.
We're seeing that this rating system not only makes you unable or unwilling to help people, but it also makes people vindictive towards others. The ticket lady didn't need to rate Lacey at all. As far as I know, you are not obligated to rate someone in this society. However, the desperation to keep your own rating high probably means the system enjoys it when low-rating people get picked on. It's most likely why Lacey's coworker downvoted Chester at the office when he was already at a low rating.
So Chester's kissing ass, trying to scrape himself back. Of course, if he drops below 2.5, then it's bye-bye.
He even says Chester is kissing ass and trying to scrape by, so he knows Chester is trying to get his rating back up. Instead of trying to help, though, he chose to be vindictive. It's almost like mob mentality. Dogpile on the person who's being bullied. This rating system causes a society of bullies. Once you fall beneath the threshold, people bully you.
Well, due to your current ranking, you're restricted to our Super Saver fleet.
Yep, yeah.
iCruiser 2.
They still have the 2?
Lacey goes to the rental car counter and has to take an outdated rental car because her score restricts her to these cars.
回来没办法，不能还是没有座位，回来坐这个大巴，高铁不是3个小时，4个小时就到了，大巴车得10个多小时。
Lacey's twin in China had a similar consequence when he was denied his plane ticket. No, he's boss-level scum. He is scum, according to this social credit system. His own country is publicly declaring he's scum. Who cares if he needed to be somewhere 5 hours ago? No, he isn't allowed to take faster transportation because he is inferior. Cruel and unusual, torturous behavior. Nosedive was smart to portray this and foresee that these practices are garbage. Seeing this social credit score being put into practice in reality literally makes me angry. I feel bad for these people who have done nothing to deserve this nonsense being imposed on them. Lacey enters her rental car and finds the voice controls have been set to Czechoslovakian. She tries to change the language to English, can't, and ends up turning the TV on in the car, which amuses me.
Oh, come on.
Tenhle týden se učíme šetřit vodou. My ji ušetříme lépe než v koupelně.
Home Improvement was one of my favorite shows growing up, so to see it inside my favorite Black Mirror episode gave me a bit of nostalgia. It makes me appreciate this episode even more. Lacey practices her speech while driving and Naomi calls her.
Okay, just drive safe. You bet, I'll just...
Oh, this rating system is garbage. It's this constant nagging thing at the back of everyone's minds. Naomi had to impress those girls who were in person with her, which caused her to treat Lacey poorly. Now we get road hazards, because the rating system is preventing Lacey from concentrating on driving. She needs to raise her score, so she needs to see if Naomi will rate her 5 stars. I would hate to live like this, constantly being on edge, worrying about every little interaction I had in life. Microaggression, anyone? I went over the list of alleged white privilege items woke idiots think we have. One item claimed that white people don't have to think about whether every interaction they had was racist. Newsflash! Non-white people don't have to think about that either, but the woke ones among them choose to. The extra anxiety imposed by this rating system is what modern-day woke people act like when they worry whether they had a racist interaction. Current DIE policies are making people feel extra anxiety constantly, which is why DIE is trash. We have arrived at my favorite scene in this episode. Lacey's car battery is low because it's an electric car and it needs to be plugged in. Now she has to waste more of her time waiting for her car to charge. Earlier, on the phone call with Naomi, it's been established that it will take her 9 hours to drive to the venue. Even on a fast charger, it takes my phone about 1 to 2 hours to fill its battery. If it's a regular charger, it may take about 3 to 4. If we use those numbers, Lacey may need to waste at least 4 hours of the time she doesn't have to charge her rental car. Welcome to the future, everybody! Now hurry up and wait. If Lacey had a gas car, she would just pull up, fill it with gas, which takes no longer than a minute, and then leave. She may spend 5 minutes after parking, turning the car off, opening the gas tank, filling it, closing the gas tank, turning the car on, and driving away. But that still doesn't take 4 hours. I love that they put this in the episode because it shows how pathetic electric cars are compared to gas cars. The scene gets more entertaining as Lacey finds out the car charging station doesn't have the right cable for her car. This brings up a problem I am not sure electric car people think of very often. What happens if your car is too old to accept a new cable? Do you expect the charging station to carry all old cables for every model of electric car? Do you expect customers to buy a new car every time a new charging port is created? That'll go great for poor people, won't it? Do you expect all brands of electric cars to use the same cable and stick to that cable for years? A small funny thing too, the charging cord looks like it has an Apple Lightning plug-in. When a new device comes out, sometimes they change the charging port. Micro USB, USB-A, USB-C, HDMI, Lightning cables, and VGA are all different kinds of plug-ins. Different brands use different ports. Apple versus Samsung is a good example. If you throw in old devices, you complicate things even more. My laptop did away with the old VGA monitor ports for the old chunky monitors we used to have because the new fancy flat screen monitors use a different port. Add the rating system in Nosedive to this, and now stores will restrict you from getting new technology despite needing it to function in life. Lacey's car is too old, so the car charging station doesn't have an adapter, but it could have gone a different way. The rating system could have said she was unqualified to get an adapter because her rating was too low. Either way, poor Lacey loses. Here's the rating system screwing Lacey over once again. The car charging station attendant rates Lacey 2 stars. Lacey gets upset and goes over to ask him why.
Wasn't a meaningful encounter.
The attendant wasn't being vindictive, he just didn't care. When Lacey first approached the counter, a woman's moans are heard through the headphones. He's most likely someone who doesn't care about the rating system, given that he didn't care to pause his video before interacting with Lacey and didn't care that she heard it. He's not wrong in rating her the way he did because the interaction was just him doing his job. The rating system is subjective, and that's why it's so stupid to have it in the first place. Not everyone holds the rating system in as high regard as Lacey does, so they will act accordingly. Needing to rely on an arbitrary vote from a stranger is a terrible way to live. Basing people's quality of life on a stranger's opinion of you is a terrible way to live. The attendant recommends that Lacey ask around for an adapter, so she takes his advice. No one does, so she is stuck. I don't blame the other drivers either. Would you carry years' worth of old adapters in your car on the off chance someone was driving an old car? Probably not. I wouldn't. It's not for any reason other than it's not practical. I don't carry old VGA cables around either in case someone has an old monitor they need to plug in. I love this moment. Lacey kicks the car's ass, literally. It's exactly how I feel whenever I hear woke activists talk about anything. Lacey has no choice but to hitchhike. A couple slows down, but when they see Lacey's rating, they drive off because she's not worth their time. Now, I'm not one for picking up hitchhikers myself, and I never slow down for anyone. In this show, though, this couple was willing to slow down for a hitchhiker, but the rating made them change their minds, which again shows how it divides people. People who would have normally picked up a hitchhiker suddenly choose not to because of an assumption in their heads that lower-rated people are scum. To make matters worse, the couple downvoted Lacey for no reason other than their assumption that she's scum. Lacey continues walking and a truck pulls up next to her, but she's reluctant to get on because the driver has a rating of 1.4. Ironically, Lacey is doing exactly what the couple earlier did when they assumed Lacey was dangerous because of her rating. Seeing no choice though, Lacey gets into the truck. This quickly becomes my second favorite scene because of how heartfelt it is.
Blue thermos is coffee, red's whiskey.
Susan stands out because she is polite. The first thing she does when Lacey gets in is offer her a drink. Lacey declines because she's still apprehensive.
Checking my feed for danger signs. I get it a lot. 1.4 gotta be an antisocial maniac, right?
Susan also stands out because she jokes around. She doesn't care that her rating is low because she knows what kind of person she is. She finds it funny that others are so scared of her. Susan reminds me of a time when people didn't constantly find jokes offensive. It was nice when people could poke fun at themselves and each other instead of being resentful about everything people say and finding fault in it. Despite Susan's low score, she appears to be anxiety-free. She wasn't scared to pick up Lacey even though she was a stranger.
Want to hear my speech?
No.
When Susan says no to Lacey, Lacey is caught off guard because she is so used to people telling her what she wants to hear. The people she surrounded herself with are always reciprocating behavior. If someone gives you a compliment, you're obligated to give one back. If someone wants to share something with you, you're obligated to let them share it. This is behavior we have been brainwashed into thinking is always a good thing. Compliments and sharing are positive things, but we should do them only when it's genuine. We should not do them if we feel obligated to, like if we're doing them just to look good in others' eyes. If you keep only doing things to look good, eventually you'll be found out as a fake, and people don't like being lied to. I think in modern day, we suffer from feeling inadequate if someone says no to us. Susan gives Lacey a genuine no to her question because she doesn't want to hear Lacey's speech. However, that doesn't mean Susan wants to ignore Lacey, because she continues the conversation. If someone says no to you, that doesn't mean they hate you or want you to go away. Susan was being honest about her feelings.
Well, got marked down at the airport for yelling.
One universal truth is that humans feel less restricted when we are allowed to express ourselves.
How did it feel? Awful. I meant the yelling.
The more you tell us to be silent and keep our feelings to ourselves, the more we will feel trapped. We have emotions, and when people upset us, sometimes we yell. We need to do that so that we can resolve our feelings. Yes, talking is good, but sometimes screaming helps. If you've ever seen that slogan, maybe swearing will help, that plays off this universal truth.
8 years ago, Tom, my husband, got cancer. It was pancreatic. It was a real bitch. The symptoms showed up late.
Susan tells Lacey she used to have a rating of 4.6. After her husband was diagnosed with cancer, she tried much like Lacey did to 5-star everyone who had a high ranking to get quality treatment for her husband. This scenario is one of the reasons I am wary of universal health care. It's not the same thing as the rating system, but it makes me think about the cost of a system that pretends to be free. Systems have to be funded somehow, so nothing that's free is actually free behind the scenes. People want universal health care because medical costs are expensive, and I understand that. I agree that healthcare costs are expensive. I just think we should solve the problem differently. If you have a system where the product is free, it takes choice away. That seems contradictory, but here's why. If you were paying for it, you could pay more to see a better doctor. You would have the choice to see a better doctor. If it's free, you lose that leverage. The system can just tell you what doctor you're supposed to see because, hey, you're not paying for it anyway. Just do what we tell you. I don't know if this is how universal health care would work, but I see that being a possibility. I do know it is a fact that quality suffers if you give someone something for free. Lower quality items are usually cheaper. And hey, if the item is free, you can't guarantee its quality. Susan tried to get her husband into an experimental cancer treatment facility, but the ratings once again screwed over the people it claimed to help. She says one of the saddest things I have ever heard. Yeah, it's fictional, but it is sad.
Tom was a 4.3. They gave his bed to a 4.4.
Remember when I joked earlier that Lacey's twin in China was bus-level scum according to the social credit system? What happened to Susan's husband shows how cruel a social credit system is. It devalues all humans to a number. It's essentially a cult because it views its members as nothing but numbers to play with. The numbers go up and down, but that doesn't matter. The hospital and this society probably thought, well, we're giving our life-saving treatment to a quality person, so we're doing good. Meanwhile, a woman loses her husband. This type of system should never be implemented anywhere, and China should be ashamed of itself for actually doing it.
What is wrong with you? I ought to bitch slap you.
You're fired.
So when he died, I thought, fuck it.
This is what free speech is.
Started saying what I wanted, when I wanted. Just drop it out there.
The ability to say your own opinion whenever you want without restriction.
People don't always like that.
Susan says it was like taking off tight shoes when she started being herself. The left is always telling you to be yourself, but they don't mean that.
Lies and lies and more lies.
They want you to be like Lacey, tied down by a system that demands you give up your humanity for the sake of perfection. Notice Susan never said she went out of her way to say mean things to someone's face in a way that was spiteful or hateful. She just says she said what she wanted without worrying about it. A misconception about free speech is that people think everyone will go around yelling at each other and making enemies. Ironically, the more the left restricts our speech, the more I see bullies popping up everywhere. The mobs that demand public apologies are bullies. The self-righteous activists that demand we bow to their causes are bullies.
How dare you?
The inclusive speech police are bullies. Susan is the one person Lacey has met besides Ryan who will talk to her like a normal human being. And Susan is a perfectly pleasant person. She uses swear words in appropriate contexts, and I loved this entire scene because of Susan. I love the life lesson she is teaching Lacey. Susan tells Lacey she should just try saying what she feels without worrying about what other people will think. But Lacey is reluctant to because she's still very much stuck in the rating system mentality. Lacey says she's still looking for things in her life to make her content. Susan asks what she needs, but Lacey can't answer.
I don't know, enough to be content. Like to look around and think, well, I guess I'm okay.
I love Lacey's character, but I think she is a girl without a personality. She's lost. She's a pleasant enough person, but she's still empty. She reminds me a lot of people today who just keep chasing the next trend, thinking it will satisfy them, but it never does. The only way to get a personality is to stop worrying about trying to fit in. If you keep worrying about what everyone else thinks of you, you'll never try new things or discover anything about yourself. I also think Lacey believes once she gets in the high 4s, her life will be perfect. The sad news is the system is designed to be a never-ending numbers game, and Lacey will never be happy the longer she plays it.
Maybe you don't remember? You know, you're just too old to get it.
Susan is unfazed by Lacey's comment because she isn't worried about that stuff.
Don't worry, I'm not voting you down.
Susan is confident in herself and she's got a personality, so nothing Lacey says is going to derail her, even if it's a little bit rude. I think Lacey is loosening up a bit in this scene, given the fact that she let that old woman comment slip out. I think it's good for Lacey that she did that. Those of us who just say what's on our minds are the ones who figure out personality traits about ourselves. We know what we believe and what we want because we are grounded. I don't care about those comments that call me a grifter, unempathetic, or ignorant. I know that's not who I am, so I remain unfazed. Susan reminds me a lot of myself. People think I'm abrasive because I don't use political correct terminology, but those who know me on a personal level think I'm sweet.
Hey, Lacey.
Bets, it's great to see you.
You too.
Remember how Lacey talks to people with that sugary, sweet voice because she's trying to sound pleasant?
A lot of buses stop here, so you should be fine.
Susan has a sweet voice because she's genuinely pleasant. Susan leaves her red whiskey thermos in Lacey's suitcase as a present. Susan dropping Lacey off where she can easily get some bus rides is also another kind gesture. This is actual kindness, not the fake kindness Lacey was portraying in the beginning of the episode. Susan didn't act kind to Lacey because people were watching her. Susan acted kind to Lacey because she wanted to. There is a lot of fake kindness in society today, and it's bad. People are losing their authenticity despite the word authentic being thrown around like candy. I feel like woke people call authenticity hate and call fake platitudes kindness. Society is turning into a surface-level, small-talk hellhole where we just smile, nod, agree, affirm, accept, and tolerate. Lacey goes to a public restroom where she hears a girl say she is headed to Port Mary.
He's all like, Port Mary's freaking miles away.
The girl says her dad one-starred her because they had an argument.
He one-stars me. Like, thanks, Dad.
Humans have emotions. I keep repeating this, but modern day needs to hear this. This small line shows how the rating system divides families. If the rating system is the key to your livelihood, as we've seen with Lacey's apartment hunting and Susan's husband's medical care, then rating your daughter 1 star becomes this cruel statement. In this society, people would rate each other down after having an argument, and that has the potential to ruin lives. We saw it with Chester, who is being punished for having a breakup. That's something that happens in life. Chester's already suffering because he had a breakup, and now he has to suffer the rating system as well. It shocks me that this society has made it so easy to ruin someone's life with a simple button push. Lacey pretends she is also going to the Sea of Tranquility convention, and one of the cosplayers offers her a ride on her RV. During the ride, Lacey gets a phone call from Naomi, who tells her not to come.
Don't come. I don't want you here. I don't know what is up with you, but I cannot have a 2-6 at my wedding.
Naomi reveals that although she did previously want Lacey as her maid of honor, Lacey's rating it now is unacceptable for Naomi's appearance.
You've seen the guest list. They are all like 4-5 or above. They are going to freak at a 2-6, and I am not taking that kind of damage.
I don't think this negates how Naomi felt about Lacey in the past, because I do think at one time the girls were real friends. I do think that the rating system has changed Naomi for the worse. She is not a loyal friend anymore. Instead, she only wants high-rated people next to her. Chasing popularity destroys people. You can be destroyed even if you look like you are successful, because what's been destroyed is your moral character.
So it was just about numbers for you?
Oh, cut the shit! It was numbers for both of us. You wanted those primo votes.
Lacey realizes that the rating system is an asshole. When Naomi tells her that she was also chasing numbers, I think it was the straw that broke the camel's back. Lacey realized that if she keeps chasing numbers, she could turn into someone like Naomi. Lacey insists that she is going to give her speech even if Naomi doesn't want her there. For the first time in her life, Lacey stands up for herself and says what someone else doesn't want to hear.
I have never seen your stupid fucking show.
The cosplayers drop Lacey at the side of the road and she's stuck again. This time, she doesn't care. Lacey has a different kind of determination now. Before, Lacey was determined to get to Naomi's wedding to be the perfect maid of honor and raise her rating.
Cancel it!
Now that she's told the rating to fuck off, she is determined to get to Naomi's wedding to tell her off. This is the kind of determination that is actually worth something. We see how anger can be a powerful tool. Naomi is a jerk, and she deserves to be told off for treating Lacey like dirt. Lacey never deserved that treatment because she has a good heart, which is why she was trying to be a good person. Lacey got misled into what being a good person actually means, and now she realizes that. Lacey hears an ATV nearby and asks if she can borrow it. Two things about this venue entrance disturb me. The sign with the minimum rating reminds me about the vax papers tyrants were trying to impose on people. The tyrants called them passports, but they were papers. They were the yellow star of our time. Treating citizens like they were unworthy for making a medical choice that was different from the regime is exactly how this rating system treats people in this society. The venue entrance looks like a prison. There's a guard tower at a wedding venue. What do they think is going to happen that they would need a guard tower? They view lower-rated people as criminals. Something this episode does well is showing that the rating society is where the real prison is. You are free to move around in society, but your mind, speech, behavior, and actions are all the property of the rating system. The rating system is your jail warden because it makes sure you behave. The people inside the wedding venue are held captive despite them thinking they're better than everyone. The people who are truly free are people like Susan and Ryan. Lacey has released herself from the system, so she's now truly free. Lacey drives through the woods until she falls into a mud pit. Lacey puts on her dress and sneaks around the woods looking for an entrance into the venue.
She was probably right. I mean, fuck the planet, right?
Lacey enters the venue and tests out saying what's on her mind. She gets some people to laugh, which gives her more courage.
Let's have a little fun here. Fuck the planet. Fuck the planet.
People downvote Lacey, and for the first time, she doesn't give any fucks. Venue security takes Lacey off the premises, and she gets sent to the police station. Lacey gets her mugshot taken. And her rating system contact lenses removed. Lacey is put in a jail cell. Lacey looks up and sees dust particles in the air, making her realize that for once she's actually looking at surroundings in reality. She's in reality now, instead of focusing on numbers, which makes her smile despite being in jail. Stopping to smell the roses, so to speak. Lacey notices there is a man in the cell across from her. Lacey makes the motion of rating him, and he smiles. The two of them then carry on a conversation where they say whatever they want to each other.
I don't like your aura.
My aura?
Yeah.
This part reminds me of an improv acting class where you just say the first thing that comes to mind.
Your entire head is just ridiculous to me.
It's funny. I love this scene because it shows that tyranny doesn't exist only in small confined spaces.
You look like an alcoholic former weatherman.
The scene portrays that when you create a society that punishes you for thoughts and speech, the only way you feel free is when you can freely say and think whatever you want, even if you are in a jail cell. This scene also shows that you can joke around with people. Lacey and the other prisoner are not mad at each other despite them throwing insults back and forth. At the very end, you can see both of them smiling through the F word because they're having fun.
Fuck you next Wednesday.
Fuck you for Christmas.
This episode is a good example of what Hollywood used to do, and I miss it. Which is why I'm emotional. Hollywood used to make good shows that taught moral lessons. You can't take human emotion out of a society and expect everyone to replace it with fake happiness. All you'll do is make people miserable until they finally explode, like Lacey did at Naomi's wedding. You can't silence people's thoughts and speech without consequences. Human nature will always fight back. It's just a matter of when. Everyone has their limit, and that is the truth. I will leave you with the hope that no matter how dark things get, human nature will always prevail. You just have to get the courage to break free. Stay strong, be courageous, and I will see you on the next video.